Lisa had always been the nervous type, ever since college. She dealt with anxiety that made her heart race at the most random times, a surprise phone call, running late for work, or even just too much coffee could set her pulse pounding like she'd just finished a marathon. Her doctor had explained it was completely normal for people with anxiety disorders, but it still made her feel self-conscious sometimes. That Tuesday afternoon, she was sitting across from her friend Jenna at their usual coffee spot downtown. They'd been meeting up like this for about 3 weeks now, ever since they'd reconnected at a mutual friend's birthday party. Lisa genuinely enjoyed these conversations. Jenna was funny, smart, and had this way of making even boring topics seem interesting. "You should see the messages my boss sent me today," Jenna laughed, pulling out her phone and scooting her chair closer to Lisa's. This woman has no idea how to use technology. As Jenna leaned in to show her the screen, Lisa caught a whiff of her perfume, something light and floral. Without warning, her anxiety kicked in the way it always did when people got too close to her personal space. Her heart started hammering against her ribs like it was trying to escape. She took a deep breath and tried to focus on the funny text messages Jenna was scrolling through, hoping her friend wouldn't notice anything weird. But Jenna did notice. She glanced up from her phone and looked at Lisa with curious eyes. "Are you okay? You look a little flushed." "Oh, I'm fine," Lisa said quickly, taking a sip of her iced coffee. "Just had too much caffeine today, I think." Jenna set her phone down and studied Lisa's face more carefully. There was something different in her expression now, a kind of knowing smile. That made Lisa's stomach flip with worry. "You know what?" Jenna said, reaching across the small table to touch Lisa's wrist. "Your pulse feels really fast." The moment Jenna's fingers made contact with her skin, Lisa's heart rate shot up even higher. Now she was anxious about being anxious, which was always the worst kind of spiral. She could feel the heat creeping up her neck and into her cheeks. "Yeah, like I said. Too much coffee," Lisa repeated, trying to pull her hand back casually. But Jenna held on for another few seconds, and that smile on her face grew wider. Jenna said, finally letting go. "That's interesting." Lisa didn't like the way she said interesting. It sounded like Jenna was putting together pieces of a puzzle that Lisa didn't even know existed. She decided to change the subject quickly. "So, anyway, how's your new job going? You said your coworkers were pretty cool." But Jenna wasn't ready to move on. She kept looking at Lisa with that same curious, almost amused expression. "You know, this happened last week too. When I showed you those pictures from my weekend trip, you got all flustered and your face turned red." Lisa's mind raced back to the previous Tuesday. She did remember feeling anxious when Jenna had pulled up those vacation photos on her phone. But that was just because Jenna had moved her chair really close and Lisa could feel her shoulder pressing against hers. Physical proximity with anyone, friends, family, strangers on the bus, always triggered her anxiety. It had nothing to do with Jenna specifically. "I don't know what you mean," Lisa said. But even as the words came out, she could feel her cheeks getting warm again. Jenna laughed, but it wasn't her usual friendly laugh. This one had a different quality to it, softer, more intimate. "Come on, Lisa. It's pretty obvious." "What's obvious?" Lisa asked, though part of her was starting to get a sinking feeling about where this conversation was heading. "The way you react when I get close to you, your heart racing, the blushing, getting all nervous." Jenna leaned forward again, resting her chin on her hand. "I think someone has a little crush." Lisa felt like the floor had just dropped out from under her chair. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of. She'd seen this kind of misunderstanding happen before, someone mistreating anxiety symptoms as romantic interest. The problem was, once people got an idea like this in their heads, it was really hard to convince them otherwise. "Jenna, that's not," she started, but the words got tangled up in her throat. How do you explain anxiety to someone who's never experienced it? How do you tell someone that your racing heart has nothing to do with attraction and everything to do with your brain's overactive fight-or-flight response? "It's okay," Jenna said gently, reaching across the table again. This time she placed her hand directly over Lisa's heart, right there in the middle of the busy coffee shop. I can feel it beating so fast right now. Lisa's anxiety shot through the roof. Now her heart was pounding for multiple reasons. The unexpected touch, the public setting, the complete misunderstanding of the situation, and the growing realization that Jenna was interpreting every single physical symptom as some kind of romantic confession. I should probably explain, Lisa began, trying to find the right words. I have this thing with anxiety, and sometimes my heart just— Lisa, Jenna interrupted, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. You don't have to be scared. I think it's sweet. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, feeling completely overwhelmed. This was not how she'd expected her Tuesday afternoon to go. She just wanted to grab coffee with a friend and complain about their respective jobs. Instead, she was sitting here with someone's hand on her chest while they completely misinterpreted her medical condition as romantic feelings. The worst part was, she could see how the misunderstanding had happened. From the outside, it probably did look like she was getting flustered and nervous around Jenna in a crush-like way. The racing heart, the blushing, the way she sometimes stumbled over her words when she got anxious, all of those things could easily be mistaken for attraction if someone didn't understand what anxiety actually looked like. I think we should talk about this, Jenna said, finally removing her hand but not leaning back in her chair. Maybe somewhere more private, Lisa nodded, though she wasn't sure if she was agreeing to talk or just trying to get out of the increasingly awkward public situation. Either way, she knew this conversation was far from over, and based on the look in Jenna's eyes, she had a feeling that explaining her anxiety disorder was going to be a lot more complicated than she'd hoped. As they gathered their things to leave the coffee shop, Lisa's heart was still racing, but now it was for entirely different reasons than what Jenna thought. The week after their coffee shop conversation, Jenna started texting Lisa every single day. Not just the usual "how was your day" messages, but long, detailed texts about everything she was doing, thinking, and feeling. Lisa found herself staring at her phone screen, unsure how to respond to messages like "thinking about you" and "can't wait to see you again." She tried to keep things casual, replying with simple responses and steering the conversation toward normal friend topics. But Jenna seemed determined to find deeper meaning in everything. When Lisa mentioned she'd had a busy day at work, Jenna would respond with something like, "I bet your heart was racing thinking about our plans tonight." It made Lisa's stomach twist with discomfort. Their next meetup was at the movie theater. Jenna had suggested they watch the new horror movie that everyone was talking about. Lisa wasn't really into scary films, but she didn't want to seem difficult, so she agreed. What she didn't expect was for Jenna to buy tickets for the back row and spend the entire movie watching Lisa instead of the screen every time there was a jump scare. Lisa's heart would pound, which was completely normal for anyone watching a horror film. But Jenna would immediately grab her hand and whisper things like, "I can feel how excited you get around me," or "your body doesn't lie." Lisa tried to explain that everyone's heart races during scary movies, but Jenna just smiled like she knew some secret that Lisa was trying to hide. The situation got worse when Jenna started suggesting activities that would naturally make anyone's heart rate go up. "Let's go for a jog together," she'd say. Or, "I heard about this new rock climbing place." When Lisa would get breathless from the physical activity, Jenna would press her ear to Lisa's chest and make comments about how intense their connection was. Lisa felt trapped. She genuinely liked Jenna as a friend, but every interaction was becoming uncomfortable. Jenna had started touching her more often, grabbing her hand, putting an arm around her shoulders, standing way too close during conversations. Each time this happened, Lisa's anxiety would spike, which Jenna took as proof of romantic attraction. The worst part was that other people were starting to notice. At their friend Kelly's birthday party, Jenna introduced Lisa to new people as "my girl" and "the one I've been telling you about." Lisa stood there with a fake smile, not knowing how to correct the situation without causing a scene. When people asked how long they'd been together, Jenna would laugh and say things like she's still figuring out her feelings. but her heart tells me everything I need to know. Lisa's friend Marcus pulled her aside during the party. Hey, what's going on with you and Jenna? She's been telling everyone you two are dating, but you look miserable. Lisa felt relief wash over her. At least someone could see that something wasn't right. It's complicated, she said, not wanting to get into the whole story at a birthday party. She thinks we're more than friends, but I don't feel that way about her. Have you told her that? Marcus asked. I've tried, Lisa said, feeling frustrated. But every time I try to explain, she says my body language tells a different story. She thinks I'm just scared of my feelings or something. Marcus looked confused. What does she mean about body language? Lisa sighed. I have anxiety, so sometimes my heart races or I get nervous around people. She thinks it means I'm attracted to her, but it's just my anxiety acting up. That's messed up. Marcus said, you need to be more direct with her. Lisa knew he was right, but it felt impossible. Every time she tried to have a serious conversation with Jenna, her anxiety would make her heart race, which Jenna would immediately point out as evidence that she was lying about her feelings. It was like being trapped in a loop where her medical condition was being used against her. Things reached a new level of uncomfortable when Jenna suggested they start spending every weekend together. She planned out entire days, hiking, cooking together at her apartment, going to art galleries, always activities where they'd be alone or in situations that could be interpreted as romantic. During one of these planned days, while they were making dinner at Jenna's place, Lisa accidentally cut her finger while chopping vegetables. It wasn't a bad cut, just a small nick that barely bled. But Jenna immediately rushed over with bandages and antiseptic. Your hands are shaking, Jenna said as she cleaned the tiny wound. And your heart is going crazy again. Lisa wanted to scream. Of course her hands were shaking. She just hurt herself, however minor it was. And yes, her heart was racing because she was stressed about the cut, about being fussed over, and about the whole increasingly weird situation she'd found herself in. It's just adrenaline from the cut, Lisa tried to explain. But Jenna just smiled that knowing smile again. You always have an excuse, she said. But I know what I feel when I touch you. That night, Lisa went home feeling completely drained. She sat on her couch and tried to figure out how the situation had gotten so out of control. Jenna was a nice person. She wasn't trying to be malicious or manipulative. She genuinely seemed to believe that Lisa was sending her romantic signals. Through involuntary physical responses, Lisa looked up anxiety disorders online, hoping to find some articles she could share with Jenna to help explain what was really happening. She found dozens of medical websites explaining that increased heart rate, sweating, and nervousness were common symptoms of anxiety that had nothing to do with attraction or romantic feelings. But when she tried to show these articles to Jenna the next day, Jenna barely glanced at them. I think you're overanalyzing things, she said. Sometimes you just have to trust what your body is telling you, even if your mind is scared. Lisa realized then that no amount of medical evidence was going to convince Jenna that she was misreading the situation. Jenna had decided what Lisa's symptoms meant, and she was going to stick with that interpretation no matter what Lisa said or showed her. The problem was getting worse every day, and Lisa didn't know how to make it stop without hurting someone she genuinely cared about as a friend. Jenna's birthday party was at her apartment, and she'd invited about 20 people. Lisa had been dreading it all week. She knew Jenna had been telling people they were dating, and she was worried about having to keep up the pretense in front of a room full of mutual friends. But she also didn't want to skip Jenna's birthday and hurt her feelings. When Lisa arrived, Jenna immediately rushed over and grabbed her hand, leading her around the room to introduce her to people she hadn't met before. This is Lisa, the one I've been telling you all about, Jenna would say with a huge smile. People would nod knowingly and make comments like, oh, so you're the famous Lisa, or Jenna talks about you constantly. Lisa felt like she was acting in a play where everyone knew the script except her. She smiled and made polite conversation, but inside she was screaming. Her anxiety was through the roof, which of course made her heart race, which Jenna kept commenting on every time she came near. "You seem nervous," Jenna whispered during a quiet moment. "It's cute how shy you get at parties." Lisa wasn't shy, she was panicking. But there was no way to explain that without making everything worse. She excused herself to the bathroom just to get a few minutes alone to breathe and tried to calm down. When she came back out, the party was in full swing. People were laughing, music was playing, and Jenna was opening presents in the living room. Lisa tried to stay on the edges of the room, hoping to avoid being the center of attention. But then Jenna stood up after opening her last gift and called for everyone's attention. "Before we do cake," she announced, "I want to share something special with all of you." Lisa's stomach dropped. She had a terrible feeling about where this was going. "As most of you know," Jenna continued, smiling directly at Lisa, "I've been getting to know someone really amazing these past few weeks. Someone who tries to hide her feelings, but whose heart tells me everything I need to know." The room full of people turned to look at Lisa, who felt like she might actually faint from embarrassment and anxiety. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. "Lisa," Jenna said, walking over to where she was standing frozen by the kitchen doorway, "I know you're scared, but I think it's time we stop pretending." Everything seemed to move in slow motion as Jenna approached her. Lisa could see the expectant faces of all the party guests, could hear someone quietly saying, "Aw, this is so sweet," could feel the heat rising in her cheeks as her anxiety reached a level she'd never experienced before. "Jenna, wait," Lisa managed to say, but her voice came out as barely a whisper. Jenna was right in front of her now, reaching up to touch her face. "Just listen," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. Then she pressed her ear against Lisa's chest, right there in front of everyone. "Do you all hear that?" Jenna announced. "Her heart is beating so fast. That's not anxiety, that's love." The room erupted in cheers and applause. Someone started chanting "kiss, kiss, kiss," and others joined in. Lisa felt like she was having an out-of-body experience. This couldn't really be happening. She couldn't really be standing in a room full of people while someone used her medical condition as entertainment. "Jenna, please," Lisa said. Louder this time. "We need to talk privately." But Jenna either didn't hear her or chose to ignore her. She was caught up in the moment, in the attention from the crowd, in what she believed was Lisa finally admitting her feelings. "I've been waiting for you to be ready for this," Jenna said, still speaking loud enough for everyone to hear. But sometimes the heart knows before the mind does. That's when something inside Lisa snapped. The combination of embarrassment, anxiety, and feeling completely powerless made her find her voice in a way she never had before. "Stop," she said firmly, stepping back from Jenna. "Just stop." The room went quiet. The cheering died down, and people looked confused by the sudden change in energy. "My heart is racing because I have anxiety," Lisa said, her voice shaking but clear. "I have an anxiety disorder. When people get too close to me, or when I'm in stressful situations, my heart races. It's not romantic, it's medical. You could hear a pin drop in that apartment." Jenna's face went from confident and happy to confused, too embarrassed in the span of about 3 seconds. "What are you saying?" Jenna asked quietly. "I'm saying that for weeks you've been misinterpreting my anxiety symptoms as romantic interest." Lisa continued. "I've tried to explain this to you multiple times, but you kept insisting that you knew better than I did about what my own body was telling me." The room full of people was staring at them like they were watching a car accident. Lisa could see some people pulling out their phones, probably to text other people about the drama they were witnessing. "So you've been lying to me this whole time?" Jenna asked, and now she was starting to look angry. "You let me think we had something real." "I didn't let you think anything," Lisa said, feeling defensive. "I told you I had anxiety. I tried to explain what was happening, but every time I did, you would point to my racing heart as proof that I was lying." "This is ridiculous," Jenna said, raising her voice. "You're using your anxiety as an excuse because you're scared of commitment." "I'm not scared of commitment," Lisa replied. "I'm just not romantically interested in you. We're friends. That's all we've ever been." The silence in the room was deafening. Lisa could see people exchanging glances, could feel the judgment coming from every direction. Some people looked sympathetic to Jenna, others seemed to understand Lisa's position, and a few just looked uncomfortable to be witnessing such a personal conversation. Jenna's eyes filled with tears, but they looked more like angry tears than sad ones. "I can't believe you would embarrass me like this at my own birthday party," she said. "I didn't want to do this here," Lisa said desperately. "I tried to talk to you privately so many times." "Get out," Jenna said suddenly. "Just get out of my apartment." Lisa looked around the room at all the faces staring at her. She felt humiliated and exhausted and angry all at the same time. Without saying another word, she grabbed her purse and headed for the door. As she was leaving, she could hear people starting to whisper behind her. She caught fragments of conversations, some people defending Jenna, others questioning what they just witnessed. But Lisa didn't stick around to hear more. She sat in her car outside Jenna's building for a long time, her hands shaking and her heart still racing. This time definitely from anxiety, not from anything romantic. The Monday after Jenna's birthday party, Lisa's phone was buzzing nonstop. She'd woken up to 17 text messages, 12 missed calls, and notifications from every social media app she had. Her stomach sank as she realized that the drama from the party had spread way beyond the 20 people who were actually there. The first text was from her friend Rachel. "Oh my God, what happened at Jenna's party? People are saying crazy things." Lisa scrolled through more messages. Some were from friends asking for her side of the story, but others were much less friendly. Someone she barely knew from college had texted, "Heard you really messed with Jenna's head. That's pretty cold." By the time Lisa got to work, she felt like everyone was staring at her. Her coworker Dave, who was friends with some of the people from the party, gave her weird looks all morning but didn't say anything. Lisa tried to focus on her projects, but she kept checking her phone and seeing more messages pop up. The worst part was that Jenna wasn't just telling people about what happened, she was adding her own interpretation to the story. According to the messages Lisa was getting, Jenna was claiming that Lisa had been playing games with her emotions and using her anxiety as an excuse to avoid commitment. "She led me on for weeks," was apparently what Jenna had told people. "She would get all nervous and her heart would race around me, but then when I tried to make it official, she suddenly claims it's just anxiety." Who does that? Lisa felt sick reading these second-hand accounts of what Jenna was saying. It was like playing a twisted game of telephone, where her medical condition was being turned into some kind of manipulation tactic. Her friend Tony called her during lunch break. "Hey, I heard about what went down at the party," he said. "Are you okay?" Lisa was so relieved to hear a friendly voice that she almost started crying. "It's been a really weird few days," she admitted. "Look, I don't know Jenna very well," Tony said, "but from what I'm hearing, she's telling people you were messing with her head on purpose. That doesn't sound like you at all." "I tried so many times to explain about my anxiety," Lisa said, "but she kept insisting that she knew what my body language meant better than I did. It was like being trapped in this situation where everything I said was turned against me." "That's messed up," Tony agreed. "Have you thought about talking to some of your mutual friends, setting the record straight?" Lisa had thought about it, but every time she imagined trying to explain the situation to someone else, it sounded crazy even to her own ears. How do you tell people that someone misinterpreted your medical condition as romantic feelings? How do you prove that your racing heart was anxiety and not attraction? The social fallout got worse throughout the week. Lisa found out she'd been removed from group chats she'd been part of for months when she tried to join her usual Friday night hangout at their friend Kevin's place. The atmosphere was so uncomfortable that she left after 20 minutes. People were clearly taking sides, and it seemed like more of them were siding with Jenna. Lisa could understand why. Jenna's version of events made her look like the victim of someone who was afraid of commitment and willing to use mental health as an excuse. Lisa's version made her look like someone who couldn't communicate clearly and let a misunderstanding go on for too long. The stress was making Lisa's anxiety 10 times worse. She was having panic attacks almost daily, which created this horrible cycle where she was too anxious to defend herself. But her anxiety was getting worse because of all the social drama. She started avoiding places where she might run into people from their friend group. Her therapist, Dr. Martinez, was the only person who seemed to fully understand what had happened. What you experience is actually more common than you might think, she told Lisa during their session. People often misinterpret anxiety symptoms, especially if they don't have experience with anxiety disorders themselves. But how do I explain that to everyone else? Lisa asked. Half our friend group thinks I'm some kind of manipulative person who plays with people's emotions. You can't control what other people think, Dr. Martinez said. What you can control is how you handle similar situations in the future. This experience, as painful as it is, can teach you to be more direct about your boundaries from the beginning. Lisa knew she was right, but it was hard to think about future situations. When she was still dealing with the aftermath of this one, she'd lost several friendships, was being talked about behind her back, and felt like she couldn't go anywhere without worrying about running into someone who'd heard Jenna's version of events. The worst part was that she genuinely missed Jenna's friendship. Before all the romantic confusion, they'd had real conversations and shared interests. Lisa found herself wondering if there was any way to salvage even just the friendship part of their relationship, but every time she thought about reaching out, she remembered how angry and hurt Jenna had looked at the party. 2 weeks after the party, Lisa ran into Kelly, the friend whose birthday party had started this whole mess. Kelly was polite, but cold, and Lisa could tell she'd been hearing stories. "I just want you to know that Jenna's really hurt," Kelly said. "She thought you two had something special. And then you embarrassed her in front of everyone at her birthday." Lisa wanted to explain her side, but she could see that Kelly had already made up her mind. "I never meant for anyone to get hurt," was all she managed to say. "Maybe think about that next time before you lead someone on," Kelly replied before walking away. Lisa stood there on the sidewalk feeling completely defeated. It seemed like no matter what she said or did, people were going to believe that she'd intentionally misled Jenna. Her anxiety disorder, which was already hard enough to deal with, had somehow become evidence of her bad character. That night, she deleted most of her social media apps and decided to take a break from trying to explain herself to people who'd already decided what they thought happened. 6 months had passed since Jenna's birthday party, and Lisa's life looked completely different. She'd started hanging out with new people, coworkers from her office, neighbors from her apartment building, people she'd met at her anxiety support group. These were people who didn't know about the drama and who accepted her explanations about her anxiety without question. Lisa had learned to be more upfront about her condition. When she met new people, she casually mentioned that she dealt with anxiety and that sometimes she got nervous in social situations. Most people were understanding and didn't make a big deal about it. She realized that the right people, the people worth being friends with, wouldn't misinterpret her medical symptoms as something they weren't. She was actually feeling pretty good about her life when she got the wedding invitation. Her old friend Amy was getting married, and apparently both Lisa and Jenna were invited. Lisa stared at the elegant invitation for a long time, debating whether she should go. Part of her wanted to skip it to avoid any awkwardness, but Amy had been a good friend before all the drama happened. Lisa decided to go, but she prepared herself mentally. She practiced what she would say if she ran into Jenna, and she made sure to invite her new friend Carlos to come with her as moral support. The wedding was beautiful, held at a garden venue outside the city. Lisa wore a simple blue dress and tried to blend in with the crowd. She spotted Jenna almost immediately. She was sitting at a table on the other side of the reception area, laughing with some people Lisa didn't recognize. For most of the evening, they successfully avoided each other. Lisa danced with Carlos, chatted with other guests, and actually had a pretty good time. She was starting to think she might make it through the whole event without any drama. When she went outside to get some fresh air on the venue's back patio, Jenna was already out there, sitting alone on a bench and looking at her phone. When she saw Lisa, they both froze for a moment. Lisa's first instinct was to turn around and go back inside. But something made her stay. "Hi," Lisa said carefully. "Hi," Jenna replied, not looking up from her phone. They stood there in awkward silence for a few minutes, with only the sound of music and laughter drifting from inside the reception hall. "You look good," Jenna finally said. "Happy, thanks," Lisa said. "So do you?" It was true. Jenna did look good. She cut her hair shorter and was wearing a dress Lisa had never seen before. But there was something different about her expression, something less intense than Lisa remembered. "I've been wanting to talk to you," Jenna said suddenly, "but I didn't know how to reach out after everything that happened." Lisa sat down on the other end of the bench, leaving plenty of space between them. "Yeah, it's been a weird few months. I'm seeing someone now," Jenna said, which wasn't what Lisa had expected her to say. "Her name is Diana, and she has anxiety too." Lisa looked at Jenna with surprise. "Oh, that's great that you found someone. The thing is," Jenna continued, still looking at her phone instead of at Lisa, "spending time with Diana has made me realize some things about what happened between us." Lisa waited for her to continue, not sure where this conversation was going. "Diana gets panic attacks sometimes," Jenna said, "and when they happen, her heart races really fast, and she gets sweaty and shaky and can't catch her breath. It has nothing to do with me or how she feels about me. It's just her body responding to stress." Lisa felt a mix of emotions, relief that Jenna was finally understanding, but also frustration that it had taken dating someone else for her to get it. "I think I owe you an apology," Jenna said, finally looking up at Lisa. "I didn't understand what anxiety actually looked like. I thought you were just making excuses because you were scared of being in a relationship." "I tried to explain it to you so many times," Lisa said quietly. "I know," Jenna said, "and I'm sorry I didn't listen. I was so convinced that I knew what your body language meant that I didn't hear what you were actually telling me." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wedding reception continuing inside. "I'm also sorry about how I handled things after the party," Jenna added. "I was embarrassed and hurt, and I said things to our friends that I shouldn't have said." Lisa had been waiting months to hear something like this. "That was the hardest part," she said. "Losing all those friendships because of misunderstandings about something I can't control." "Have you talked to any of them since then?" Jenna asked. "A few people have reached out recently," Lisa said. "I think some of them are starting to realize there were two sides to the story. But honestly, I've made new friends who understand my anxiety from the beginning, and that's been really good for me." Jenna nodded. "That makes sense. I'm glad you found people who get it." They talked for a few more minutes about neutral topics. How the wedding was, what they'd been up to for work, general life updates. It wasn't the deep friendship they'd had before, but it wasn't hostile either. "I should probably get back inside," Lisa said eventually. "Carlos will wonder where I went." "Is Carlos your boyfriend?" Jenna asked. "Just a friend," Lisa said with a small smile. "A friend who understands that when my heart races around him, it's because we just climbed 3 flights of stairs, not because I'm secretly in love with him." Jenna actually laughed at that. Diana would appreciate that joke. She's always making fun of me for not understanding anxiety before I met her. As Lisa got up to leave, Jenna stood up too. "Lisa," she said, "I know we can't go back to being friends like we were before. Too much happened. But I want you to know that I've learned a lot from this whole situation." "Me too," Lisa said. "I've learned to be more direct about my boundaries and my medical stuff from the beginning. That's probably good for everyone involved," Jenna agreed. They said goodbye and went back to their respective tables inside. Lisa felt lighter than she had in months. She didn't need Jenna to be her friend again. But getting that acknowledgement and apology meant more than she'd expected. Over the next few weeks, Lisa heard through mutual friends that Jenna had reached out to some of the people she'd talked to after the party, clarifying what had really happened and admitting that she'd misunderstood the situation. It didn't undo all the social damage, but it helped. Lisa's new life was smaller, but healthier. She had fewer friends, but they were people who accepted all parts of her, including her anxiety. She'd started volunteering with a mental health awareness group, helping other people learn to communicate about their conditions in relationships and friendships. Sometimes people would ask her about her heart racing or her nervous habits, and she'd explain simply, "I have anxiety. This is what it looks like." Most people just said okay and move on with the conversation. Lisa realized that the right people made room for all of her, including the parts that were hard to understand. And the people who couldn't or wouldn't make that room probably weren't meant to be in her life. Anyway,